Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name's Tony, and I want to help you learn how to design t-shirts and other things, even if you have zero design experience. Today, we're going to talk about using color in your designs, and it's going to be pretty simple, so let's just jump right into it. In this video, we're going to be tackling an analogous color harmony. There's a few different color harmonies. This one I feel like is the simplest one to start with. And let's just jump right into the basics. So the color wheel is made up of primary colors, secondary colors, and tertiary colors. So the primary colors are yellow, red, and blue. And these three colors are what every other color is made up of. So your secondary colors would be orange, violet, and green. And then after that, in between your primary and secondary, you have your tertiary colors, which would be yellow orange, red violet, blue green, and yellow green. So in an analogous color harmony, what we're going to do is we're just going to take any three colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. And that's going to be our basic color scheme. So we're going to jump into our color picker here, and we're going to change this to hue, saturation, brightness, which is HSB. And what that does is it'll allow us to keep our colors consistent. So when we're talking about color, it also is a hue. So yellow is a hue, red is a hue, blue is a hue, all of them are hues. And then saturation means how bright or dull that color is. So we'll start with this red, and then I can move the saturation back this way, and it starts becoming grayer and grayer. And then the brightness or value is just how light or dark it is. So this red we started with here, and we'll make a copy of that. These are the same color or same hue, they just have different values and levels of saturation. And that's going to be very important as we jump into designing our design for today, which is going to be this. And this is going to be our analogous color scheme, but we'll jump into it and get you started from the beginning. First thing we're going to need to do is make our graphic element, which is the shamrock. It's going to be super easy to make, and everyone should be able to make their own shamrocks after just a couple minutes here. So I'm going to start with my pen tool. I'm going to set my color so I have no fill here, and a black stroke. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my pen tool, make an anchor point. I'm going to make an anchor point down here. And then I'm going to bring this up here so I'm on the same line here. My smart guide will tell me, and make one more anchor point. And once I do that, I'm going to switch to my direct selection tool here. Select this bottom anchor point that I made. Then I'm just going to drag it until I get this line right here, this intersect line that shows me I'm in the center. Okay, so once I do that, I can go to my stroke. I'm going to make sure this is all direct selected. I'm going to go to my stroke palette, and I'm going to change this cap to this rounded cap, and then the corner I'll keep it here on the miter joint corner. And I'm just going to make this, just keep adding it until I got a nice little heart shape. So mine was 41 points, but you can, just depending on how big you made this, you might need more or less of a stroke size. So once I have this, I'm going to get my direct selection tool, hold down my Alt key, Option key if you're on Mac, click on this path, and just duplicate it. Now once I have that done, I'm going to mouse over with my selection tool here still, and over this corner, until I get the rotate option. Now I'm going to hold down shift, because what that's going to do is it's going to make it go in 45-degree steps. And that way I can make it perfectly 90-degree angle here. Then I'm going to use my direct selection tool and just move this and see how that looks. And if this doesn't look right, it looks good to me. But like, let's say I made it too shallow here. Then I would need to go back and adjust this by using the direct selection tool here, this white one, selecting this bottom anchor point, and then I'm going to hold shift and just move it. Just make sure that only that one's selected. Hold down shift and then make it longer or shorter depending on how my first one looks. So this one looks good to me. So I'm going to select everything. I'm going to go object, expand. Okay. And now this is just one solid object. So here I'm going to hold down option, duplicate it, hold down shift, rotate it. Then I'm going to intersect it here. Okay, so I'm going to select both of these now with my direct selection tool. Hold down Alt or Option and just duplicate it. Now I'm going to rotate it. So it's like that. Move these in. Then what I like to do here is I'll select this one, hold down shift, select that one with the direct selection tool. Actually with the selection tool, sorry. Then I will go to my alignment, align palette, and these two I'm going to horizontal align center. And then these two I'm going to horizontal align or vertical align center, just to make sure that they're even. And then if I like the way this looks, I can just leave it, or I can move things closer in. Just depending. A lot of this is just up to you. I'll start with how I had it. Okay, now once I have this in place, use my selection tool, select everything here, go to my Pathfinder palette, and merge. Now this is all one solid object. So once I do that, I'm going to select this object, rotate, and hold down shift again, and just rotate it like that. Actually, yeah, that's fine. I could actually make that. I think the center's a little weak, so I will go back and move these in. Do that. Rotate. Okay, now I need to make the stem. So I'm going to get my pen tool. Right here, shortcut is P. Click here, anywhere in this area, click and drag so I have these handles. Then I'm going to make a second anchor point here, click and drag, push escape. Now I have this set so the fill is black and the stroke is nothing. So I'm just going to click this right here, this little arrow, and it's going to swap. Now I have a fill. So I'm going to make the cap on this round again in my stroke palette. Then I'm just going to increase this by a few points. And now I can move these anchor points around until they're where I want them. And I can also adjust how much it curves by pulling on these handles. And once I have it where I want, and that's good enough, I can select this stroke that we just made, expand it, object, expand, fill and stroke, and that's it. Now if I want to add this a little something here, I can use the blob brush Here I'm going to zoom in with the blob brush, and I'm just going to draw a little bump there. This is easier if you have a pen display or a tablet or something you can draw on, and I'm doing this with the mouse, which isn't ideal, but it's fine for this. And that looks good enough to me. So now I'm going to select everything, merge, and now I have this object that I can use later. Okay, now we need to make this circle with the segmented sections here. So I'm going to get my ellipse tool, hold down shift, and make this circle as big as I want it. Now I'm going to get my pen tool. I'm going to make sure I'm beyond the limits of the circle. Click once, hold down shift, click again. Let's see, we'll make this, we can make this any color. We'll make this this reddish color here. Make sure that that's our stroke color and not our fill color. Then we're going to make our stroke here about this size. Let me make it a little smaller. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drag this. Actually, first thing I'm going to do here is go to Object, Expand. And now this, instead of a line with the stroke on it, it's just a solid object. And that way I can take this and I will align it to the top of my circle. I'm going to drag this down. And we want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more lines. So we'll go 1. Then once I've duplicated, I should be able to push Control D. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, now I can take this one and drag it to the bottom of the circle and align it there. Now I'm going to use my selection tool, just click and drag across these lines. And now I'm going to distribute these objects evenly. So what I need to do is here, distribute objects, and this one vertical, distribute center. Click that, and now it should be perfectly even. Now I can take this and delete it, select this one, delete it. Now I'll select this entire thing. Now we'll go to Object. Actually, I will go to Merge. You can do that. And then I can select, with my direct selection tool, I'll select one of these lines. Then I can go select, same, fill, and stroke, and we'll select everything that has the same exact fill color and 0 stroke. Delete that, and now I have this circle with the segments. So now for my color scheme, since we're doing St. Patrick's Day type of thing, we're going to go with yellow green, green, and blue green. I selected these over here. And what we're going to do is I'm actually going to go this way with it. And what I want to do is create basically a gradient from this color to this color. So I'm just going to select this and use my eyedropper. Now for these first 3 colors, they're going to be variations of this. The next 3 will be variations of this. And then the last 2 will be variations of this. So if I go here to hue, saturation, brightness, when I select these, this first color here is at about 80 on the scale for hue, and then the one at the end is at 164 for color. So what that tells me, and this one should be in between, is for my analogous colors, going to these three colors on the color wheel, I can go on my hue anywhere from between 80 and 164, and those will be safe in my color scheme. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to start at the top. And actually, once I have this all selected, once I have this all separated out, I can ungroup it. So I just go Object, Ungroup. Otherwise, these will all want to be selected at the same time with the Direct Selection tool. So I'm going to start with my first color here. And I'm not going to touch the hue on this right now. I'm just going to move the brightness down. And I'll keep the saturation the same. So this next color, I'm going to keep the same hue, and I'm just going to sample that, and I'm just going to pump the brightness up a little bit and move the saturation down a little bit. Same thing with this one. Just sampling the previous color, making it a little bit brighter, a little less saturated. And then we're going to move here. We're going to go brighter still less saturated. And if you're having trouble telling what the values are of these colors as you work, if you can't tell if, especially once you switch colors, which one is darker, which one's lighter, what you can do here is make a rectangle that's bigger than your object here, fill it in with white, and then go to your transparency palette and switch this blending mode to color. And it'll turn your image into grayscale, and then you can see how your values are. So you can see now, instead of going from darker to lighter, it's just kind of going all over the place as it is. And this also tells me I could make probably this one at the top a little darker and this one a little darker. So I'll just move this over to the side while I'm working. And we'll make this one darker. Make this one a little bit darker. Okay, I can make this one a little bit lighter. Okay, we'll go here. And this is our second color here. This is our just green. Make this one just a tiny bit lighter, a little less saturated. Okay, and that could actually be a little darker. The main thing with color is you want to make sure that, and anything in design in general, you just want to make sure that you have a good contrast going on between things. You don't want too many things that look similar or the same. So that looks good to me. I'll select the next one, make that this color, and I'm still going to go a little bit lighter there, less saturated. Same thing here, a little bit lighter still, a little less saturated. Okay, we'll go here. Go lighter and less saturated. Go lighter and less saturated. Okay, this one, yeah, these need more contrast here, so make this one slightly darker. Dark. And a lot of this is just kind of going back and forth with color. And the more this is a lot of different shades, tones to be dealing with in the design. And the more of that you have, the more work it is. If you're just doing type, you could probably do this with, just these three basic colors and just adjust them a little bit here and there. But for this, we want to make sure it's just right. And that looks good enough to me. And here's our analogous color harmony. We just took those 3 colors. So now what we're going to do here is I'm going to make a rectangle behind this. So I'm going to make this rectangle, fill it in with black. I'm going to go Object, Arrange, Send to the back. And then I'm going to go Object, Lock, Selection. So now this black background is locked in place for now while I work. So that way when I'm selecting things, it's not moving all over the place. Okay, we're going to take our 4-leaf clover, bring it in here, and it's going to be behind everything. So we're going to go Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. Now that's going to be there. And we're going to resize that. And remember, while we resize, if we don't hold Shift, this thing's going to get distorted. So we're going to hold down Shift until it's about how we want it. We can move it, whatever you want to do. One thing you want to be careful of when you're dealing with different objects is what they call a visual tangent. And what that is if 2 edges of an object are barely touching, that's called a visual tangent, and it's basically uncomfortable to look at because you either want it to be all the way this way or all the way that way. And if it's just kind of in the middle, it is not good design wise. Like I said, it's just kind of uncomfortable to look at because you want it to go all the way one way or all the way the other way. So once I have this where I want it, I can select all these and center it if I want. And then what I'm going to do here is we'll do our type. So just like in the last one, we're going to get our ellipse tool. And we want to find the center of our circle, which I'm going to guess is around here-ish. Let's see, hold down Shift. Nope, not, but that's fine. So I can just make this a little bit bigger than that. I don't want to fill, I want it to be an outline. And now we're going to do the same thing we did in the last one. We're going to select this. We're going to use the scissor tool here. We're going to scissor this anchor. And we're going to scissor that anchor. And we're just going to dump this bottom line. I'm going to use my type tool here. I have this set on the paragraph on align center. I'm going to find this anchor point up here. Click on it. And let me see here. Okay, this came in upside down, which is fine. If you run into this problem, all you need to do is select this, type, grab your direct selection tool, and then this little blue line that's going down the center here, I'm going to click that. Just drag it until it's in the right place, and then I'm going to center it here. And now my boundaries here for this type are just here and here. So again, I'm going to make sure this is selected, use my direct selection tool, drag this to the edge, drag this to the edge, and we're going to use a typeface called Rubik Mono 1 Regular, which I got from Google Fonts. We're just going to say Luck O. Luck O the. Then down here, we're going to type in Irish. And the thing about this typeface is these spaces in between letters are ridiculously big, so I'm just gonna bring those in a little bit with my kerning, and I might kern these letters a little bit too. I'll select all that, make sure that it's centered, and I'm good to go like this if I wanted with white letters, and that's fine. I have white letters up here and white letters down there, so that gives me that basically unity, where you have things that repeat more than once. These hues repeat a few times, and so that also gives you that I guess like symmetry, you might call it, in design. Or I can take one of my colors from here and here and do it that way, and that would also give me those unifying factors, things that repeat more than once. And either way works. It doesn't really matter how you do it, but that's basically it with color. And so for this one, I just used all these kind of green shades, but I could have gone with these and it still would have worked. So you could do that too. It doesn't really make a difference which three you pick. It's just how you use them. And the way you use them is through varying the value and the levels of saturation. So if everything was the same exact value and the same level of saturation, it would be much more difficult to look at the shirt and enjoy it. So yeah, that's pretty much what you're doing with color there. And like I said, with the analogous colors, it's just you pick any of those three, and then you just want to start playing with the brightness and saturation. And that's pretty much it for that. So like I would take these three colors and I would make sure that this is, actually first I would make sure this is set to hue, saturation, brightness. Okay. Then I can make copies here of these swatches. I could mess with the brightness and saturation all I want until I have something that I think looks pretty cool, and then I can start designing with those. And you can use this in your graphic design. You can use it if you're painting. It doesn't really matter. Just the main thing is that you have a variety here. And like I said before, earlier, since we're dealing with the hues between certain values here, so this one's between 1198 and 347, so it's basically from here backwards to here. Then I can adjust that, as I'm working too. As long as I'm within that range, it's like mixing paint. And so yeah, that's it for that. I would definitely play around with these color harmonies, with this analogous color harmony, and see what you can come up with. But you could create a lot of different moods and a lot of different feelings with these, and you're always gonna be just fine because these ones, they're so close on the color wheel that there's not going to be anything too jarring. But it's a good chance to practice messing with value and saturation and repeating colors and repeating elements in your design as far as color goes. So I hope this helps you. I hope to see you on the next one. Please let me know if you have any questions. I have a Facebook group. I will link that in the description. I'd like to see some of your work. I'd like to help you if you need some help with design. So please feel free to join my group, ask questions, and I will see you on the next one.